In today's video, I am going to be breaking down some footage from a few months ago of David and how he was able to score essentially 30 points in a game. In this game, he scored 29 points. He had 5 steals and 4 rebounds, and he had a couple of assists as well. So let's get down, let's check out this footage and really break down how you can score 30 points just like David. Now, really quickly, I'm going to pause this and I'm going to really break this down mathematically. If you go 30 points, divide that by 4, what do you get? Well, the answer is, yes, I had to bring out my calculator. The answer is 7.5. So you need 7.5 points per quarter. So how can you get 7.5, let's call it 8 because 8 just makes it easy, 8 points per quarter? Well, that is either 4 layups or you can get maybe a 3 and 2 layups or 1 layup. It's depending, right? You're not going to get 8 points every quarter, but if you can average 8 points a quarter, that is essentially how you get 30 points. And if you're getting some major minutes in your games, it should be pretty viable. So let's really get down and see what David does to be able to get 30 points. So in this first clip, what we see him do is he attacks the basket and he's able to score. Well, how is he able to do this so easily? Well, first off, he had a screen set. His man went underneath the screen, and usually what you would want to do in this case is to shoot that 3-point shot. However, this is the beginning of the game. You want to try and get to that rim. He splits these 2 defenders quite well. And then once he gets past those defenders, and watch what he does right there. How you get past 2 defenders is getting that ball nice and high. That is going to show the referee if you get hacked by having that ball high, the refs are going to see that contact on your arms much easier, and they would call a foul. He takes 2 big steps. In Canada, we use FIBA rules, so we are allowed 2 steps, and we can definitely see that he took some big, massive steps right there, at least on this clip, and he was able to then score. Of course, he gets up nice and high as well. You want to get up as high as you can on layups, especially when you are going through traffic. It's much harder to, like, for example here, like David was getting pretty close to the height of that rim. That's 10 feet high. How many players on the court on the other team are going to be able to jump 10 feet high? Not many. There was actually 0 players who were grabbing rim at the time of making this video in this game. So he was able to score just by getting that ball nice and high and then finishing high as well. Nobody's going to block a layup that's 10 feet high, and he was able to score in this clip. So just by basically driving, splitting defenders who give you the opportunity to be able to split them and keeping that ball high is going to allow you to get to that rim much easier. Now, this next clip, watch what he does right here. He goes from standing straight up into a full-out sprint towards the basket. He reaches out and he makes that layup. What makes this very important is the fact that he was about to call a play. However, you can see at this point, even though he's off camera, you can see way back here that he changed his mind. There was nobody guarding the point. Whether they were playing a 2-3 zone or a man, I can't remember. There was a massive gap up the middle of that defense. He was able to split the top 2 defenders. And then, by learning and knowing how to do layups, reaching out. You really want to practice this style layup. This is extremely important. I know there's a lot of coaches and trainers who will say you have to shoot with your hand underneath that ball all the time. You always have to have that perfect layup. Well, you're never going to have that perfect layup in game. You're going to have to stretch out, reach out, and get those layups. You need to practice these. And just by splitting defenders once again and being able to reach out on your layups, you are going to be able to score a ton more layups, believe me. Now, this next clip, he hits a 3. Now, well, first off, if you're going to score 30 points, it's a lot easier to do it when you're scoring 3s because that's 1 extra point that you're going to get versus a layup or a mid-range shot. So here he's cutting to the corner. Obviously, this is a baseline inbounds. He receives that pass, he pivots around, and he had the space, and the main defender had his arms down, which means that he has the open opportunity to take that 3. Now, I understand there are some coaches who will say, I don't want a 3 right away after an inbounds. But the way that Kenny, which is David's coach in this clip, is coaching him, he wants to have a 3, or he would like to have a 3 if you have the opportunity. And I'm the assistant coach in this case. And anytime you have a gap between yourself and your defender and you have an opening, especially if you are a very high three-point shooter like David is, you definitely have to pull that shot. You have to take that opportunity. David takes it, and he was able to make it. But in this case, it's not just about being able to shoot threes. The footwork is also very important, because here he receives that pass, he pivots around, and then he was able to shoot right away. Stuff like this is extremely important to be able to do while in a game or in practice. Now here we don't see David. He's actually well off the clip, off to the right side. However, we can see what he does. So that man tries to intercept, he misses. David then takes that gap and attacks that gap right along that baseline. We have Carter right here, who is essentially boxing out, or at least getting in the way of other defenders. So David is able to drive baseline, and then David was able to go and split between those defenders, keeps that ball nice and high, gets past that first defender, and he was then able to score. Now, being able to jump high enough and glide while in the air and making shots like this, again, this is not something that you just randomly do in game and hope for the best. You will miss if that is the case. This is why I always tell a lot of players, you need to practice more than you have games. If you don't, then you are not going to be good enough to be able to play in that game at a high enough level. David practices at a very minimum 5 times during the week, at a very minimum. Sometimes it's more. And he practices 5 times and has anywhere between 0 and 4 games on the weekend. So being able to pull off advanced moves like this against a top-level team in Ontario is extremely impressive. And, of course, he's able to do it because he has the practice. Now, this is something that a lot of centers need to work on. And while this may seem like a very boring and tedious drill, being able to catch the ball when it's down low like this, like a bounce pass, and going straight up, pivoting and going straight up for that layup. In this case, he got fouled. Getting that and one is extremely important, but just being able to get from low, pivoting, do not take a dribble in the low post in this circumstance. A lot of coaches, or a lot of players, not coaches, but a lot of players will catch that ball, they'll take that dribble, go up. That dribble takes way too long. Just get it, pivot up. If David was to take that dribble and go up, he would have been blocked, and the foul probably would have never been called. So, because if you make contact with the ball first, it's very rare for the player or for the ref to call a foul if there's contact after. If you hit the ball first. That's why a lot of players will complain about foul calls in games, but in reality, the ball was hit first. Body contact is just incidental after the cause, or after the foul, or the play, and in which case it's no longer a foul. So that is a very important tip, being able to score in the low post. David is a 3-level scorer, and he's able to score at all levels, whether it's a 3, mid-range, or being able to attack the basket in this case. Being aggressive, coming off of that screen, using screens, and turning the corner, getting your shoulder lower than your defender's shoulder is extremely important. Taking big steps is another one, and keeping that ball on the opposite side of your body than the defender is another very important skill to have. And being able to get your shoulder, get your body back in front of that defender so that you have the angle to the basket is going to help you score more points at the rim as well. So being able to do stuff like this is extremely important. Court vision, court awareness is extremely important. Court vision is more for passing. Court awareness is what we see right here. He catches the ball in the mid-range, mid-post. He takes that dribble out to the 3-point line, gets his feet behind the 3-point line so that he is able to take that 3. And of course, in this case, he makes it. And being able to do that knowing that there's only like maybe 10 seconds, 13 seconds left on that clock, knowing that there's not much time left and taking that shot with a tie game in the third quarter is extremely important. And that shows that he has court awareness, but that shows his ability to be able to shoot on a defender as well in a very kind of stressful situation. Now, this is more for court awareness, which is in basketball IQ, which is, hey, they've played a zone, they're loading up, they don't want anyone going into the key, they're leaving men on the wings wide open. We kind of set a screen on one of the guys, and that allows Yusuf here to be able to get himself open, and David was able to find him for that assist. And then also, watch this, how David is able to right away gets himself into position to attack the basket off of a defensive rebound. He's already at a full course sprint when he gets that ball. Then he pushes that ball ahead, 1 dribble, 2 dribbles, and then takes a third dribble and then goes for a jump stop in front of his defender, and then he was able to finish at that rim. Being able to push that ball fast. If you get that ball, we're going to rewind this just a bit. If you get a defensive rebound at the point and you're already facing down court, if you see guys to pass to them if they're farther down court. You have the opportunity to do that because you're already facing that way. It's not like if you just got a defensive rebound back to the play, you need a pivot. No, he's already facing that direction. So push that ball as fast as you can. Get that ball down court as quick as possible. Of course, he did have a teammate here, but that teammate was covered by 2 guys. So he needed to take it to the basket, and he was able to finish with 2 hands at the rim. So by being able to do stuff like this is very important. You are not going to score 30 points. It's going to be very rare for you to score 30 points without playing very good defense. If you don't play defense, you are probably going to be sitting on the bench. That is number 1. But number 2 is you can score a ton off of your defense. So for example, right here, David intercepts that pass, and watch what he does. He's able to, this is a skill that not many players have. When we rewind, he tips that ball down, which gives him a couple of steps. He gathers right there on his right foot. He then pushes that ball ahead. Now, technically speaking, some referees could call this a travel because he lifted his foot before he threw that ball ahead. However, there is also a rule that at least some referees go by that it was explained to me, is as long as that ball releases from the hand, the pivot foot lifts up. As long as that pivot foot doesn't return to the ground by the time that ball leaves the hand, it is not a travel. So we have to remember that some referees go by different rules, and there's also different rules in different rule books. So what he does here is he pushes that ball ahead. He's able to take how many steps from throwing it ahead? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. 6 steps in one dribble. This is a very important skill to be able to have because he's taken 6 steps already. He gathers 1, 2, and goes up. He took 8 dribbles. 8 dribbles with one dribble. Sorry, 8 steps with 1 dribble. This is something that a lot of players don't know how to do, and this is something that you need to practice. And yes, in this case, he did get fouled, and he did make that and 1. So I hope that this video helps you be able to score 30 points in future basketball games. If it does, hit that like button and subscribe and comment down below and tell David that he did a fantastic job in this game. I'll see you guys again in my next video.